At an emergency HOA meeting, I argued the closure's impact, pointing out the lack of a real inspection. My frustration boiled over. "I'm not a barcode for your compliance scanner," I shouted. "Do you want a community or a prison?" The room fell silent. Margot let the moment linger, then calmly suggested I needed to learn community values. Residents exchanged glances. I'd lost them. She'd won. Defeated, I considered selling the cabin. But sitting in my grandfather's chair, I felt his defiance. This was about more than rules, it was about legacy. I decided to fight, starting with his attic. Among dusty boxes, I found a cookie tin filled with documents, love letters, property surveys, and bridge permits. A 1960 letter granted my grandfather permission to build a private bridge, with annual taxes paid ever since. Receipts showed payments for Morrison Bridge, tax ID 4471, continuing through last year. The bridge was mine, private property, not HOA controlled. At the county clerk's office, Curtis Myers, a longtime clerk, confirmed the records. "Your granddad was proud of that bridge," he said. "Built it himself, paid taxes faithfully." Lena reviewed the documents, her eyes lighting up. "This is huge, Dave. The HOA's been trespassing for years. Margot has no authority to close your bridge." Curtis shared stories of my grandfather's independence, building the bridge to ensure his freedom. "He always said, 'Own your bridge, own your freedom,'" Curtis chuckled. I called Margot, calm but firm. "I own the bridge. I have the deed, taxes, and 60 years of county records. We need to talk." Her confidence wavered. At the emergency meeting, I presented the permits, tax records, and Curtis's testimony. Residents whispered as Margot's attorney reviewed the documents, admitting their authenticity. Curtis shut down easement claims, noting no legal agreement existed. Margot's speech about protocols fell flat. Residents left, her authority crumbling. She requested a private meeting. At the coffee shop, without her clipboard, she looked tired, human. "Surely we can compromise," she said, hands trembling. I presented my terms: drop all fines, $4,200 refunded, a video apology, an annual Freedom Week with no minor citations, a formal easement for bridge access, and $25,000 for the easement and harassment. She called them excessive, but I held firm. "Think about it by Monday, or I'll charge daily bridge fees." The community accepted my terms. Margot's apology video was stiff but sincere, her glasses off as she wiped her eyes. The settlement funded my new consulting business, helping others navigate property disputes. I kept the cabin, now a home, not a refuge. I replaced Margot's sign with one reading, "Private Bridge, please nod in thanks." Most residents complied, a small gesture of respect. Margot took the long detour for 3 days before relenting. The community changed. Residents questioned HOA decisions, and citations dropped. My grandfather's bridge became a symbol of independence, its new sign reading, "Built with faith, strong as the man who made it." Standing up to Margot didn't just protect my rights, it empowered others. My grandfather taught me that freedom requires documentation and courage. Bullies only have the power we give them, and sometimes, the best way to teach respect is to demand it, one nod at a time. Over the next 10 days, I racked up 7 more violations. My garden gnome was non-regulation, my porch light too bright, my grandfather's wildflower bed inappropriate. Each fine, ranging from $50 to $200, came with a visit from Margot, who lectured me in her teacherly tone. "Rules create harmony, Mr. Morrison. I taught civics for 20 years. I know how communities function." The fines drained my dwindling savings, but her condescending delivery stung more. When I pointed out that her own property violated several rules, her eyes narrowed, and she scribbled another citation for my visible trash can. After 2 weeks, I'd paid $2,800 in fines and started checking for Margot's car before stepping outside. Online research revealed HOAs had significant power, but not unlimited. Then I found a clue: One of Margot's citations referenced a recently amended rule banning unapproved garden decorations. The amendment required a 30-day notice and a community vote, neither of which had happened. I called neighbors to confirm. Most were unaware of any changes. At the monthly HOA meeting, I raised my concerns, citing the wildflower fine as an example. Margot dismissed me, claiming grandfathering applied only to structures, not plants. "Your grandfather understood standards," she said, her magnified eyes locking onto mine. "Your struggles suggest you need guidance." Residents nodded, and I felt like a scolded student. Afterward, Lena Brooks, a paralegal who lived nearby, approached me. "Margot's gotten worse lately," she whispered. "It feels personal with you." The next morning, Frank Weber, a friendly HOA board member, knocked on my door. He apologized for Margot's intensity and suggested coffee to discuss solutions. Over lattes, he shared his own struggles and advised showing Margot respect to ease her enforcement. "Work within the system," he said. I followed his advice, repainting my mailbox, replacing wildflowers with approved shrubs, and buying a smaller flag. Frank checked in, praising my progress and assuring me Margot noticed. But I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Curtains twitched, and a jogger passed my cabin at oddly regular intervals. Then came the betrayal. A formal HOA complaint accused me of excessive noise from evening power tool use. I hadn't used tools after dark, but the complaint detailed activities I'd mentioned to Frank while he visited. He'd been feeding Margot information, playing ally while reporting my every move. When confronted, he admitted, "I can't afford to cross Margot. You'll understand someday." I was alone. Neighbors offered sympathy but wouldn't challenge Margot publicly. "She's good for property values," one said. Another admitted her rules were excessive but feared retaliation. That night, staring at the lake my grandfather loved, I realized this wasn't about rules, it was about control. Margot's system thrived on fear, turning neighbors into informants. Compliance wasn't enough. She needed dominance. The next morning, construction noise woke me. Workers were barricading the bridge, with Margot overseeing, clipboard in hand. An orange sign read, "Bridge closed for safety inspection." She claimed the bridge was structurally questionable, citing her safety committee, herself and Frank. The closure cut me off from the main road, forcing a 3-mile forest hike or kayak trips for groceries. My internet faltered, costing me a consulting gig. Carrying supplies left me exhausted and underfed, dropping 15 pounds in 2 weeks. The bridge, built by my grandfather in the 1960s, was solid. I'd crossed it countless times as a kid. No engineer had inspected it. Margot's assessment was a sham. 6 months after losing my tech job in Denver, I thought moving into my grandfather's old cabin by Pine Lake, Colorado, was my lowest point. I'd built an app that exposed data breaches, but when it revealed a major corporation's vulnerabilities, I was blacklisted from the industry. My divorce had drained my savings, and the cabin, inherited from my grandfather, was my last resort for free shelter while I pieced my life back together. The cabin sat on the edge of Pine Lake, a small community of about 30 homes that had sprung up over the past 2 decades. My grandfather had owned the land since the 1950s, long before any HOA existed. But when I arrived, I found a no-access sign taped across the only bridge leading to my property, courtesy of the Pine Lake Homeowners Association. Apparently, I now lived in a gated community I hadn't signed up for, and the gatekeeper was Margot Keller, a retired civics teacher with a penchant for citations. She fined me for everything from mailbox height to insufficient community spirit. Little did she know, while she was busy enforcing bylaws, she'd overlooked one critical detail. The bridge she'd blocked wasn't hers to control. Digging through my grandfather's old files, I was about to teach the HOA a lesson in real community standards. It started when I pulled up to the bridge in my beat-up sedan, staring at the orange sign barring my way. A woman approached, clipboard in hand, her navy blazer oversized and her gray hair pulled into a severe bun. Her glasses magnified her eyes, giving her the look of a hawk sizing up prey. "I'm Margot Keller, president of the Pine Lake HOA," she announced, her voice carrying the practiced cadence of a teacher addressing a tardy student. This bridge is community property. Unauthorized vehicles are prohibited. I introduced myself as Dave Morrison, explained that I'd inherited my grandfather's cabin, and showed her the deed and tax records. Margot barely glanced at them before launching into a lecture about community standards and proper procedures. "Mr. Morrison," she said, adjusting her glasses, "I taught civics for 20 years. I understand how these things work. Ownership doesn't grant unrestricted access." Before I could respond, she scribbled a citation for my American flag, claiming it violated the HOA's 2-to-1 flag ratio rule compared to their oversized community banner. I took the ticket, asked for the HOA handbook, and received a tome thicker than a dictionary. As she walked away, I noticed her hands trembling slightly, betraying the confidence in her voice. That night, I pored over the handbook. Its rules were absurdly specific: lawn height, paint shades, mailbox designs, even the angle of parked cars. Many regulations seemed contradictory, and several were recent additions, far stricter than the original covenants from the community's founding. My grandfather had lived here for over 40 years without HOA trouble, and I'd never seen that bridge sign as a kid. Something felt off. I decided to visit the county offices the next day to check the property records. As I went to bed, I caught headlights creeping past my cabin, twice. When I looked out, the vehicle was gone. The next morning, I found another citation taped to my door. My mailbox was 2 inches too low. I measured it, 36 inches from the ground, standard by any reasonable metric. But the handbook specified 36 to 42 inches from the post space to the mailbox's bottom. Mine was measured to the top, making it non-compliant. I spent half an hour raising the post with a shovel and dirt. Margot reappeared, clipboard ready, nodding approvingly. "Better," she said, then pointed to my car. "But your parking angle is off. Vehicles must be parallel to the property line, not diagonal." My driveway followed the land's natural slope, but according to a 2018 rule, that wasn't an excuse. Another citation.